So there's been a lot of talk lately about SCPs. What is it? What exactly are they? Well, I think I might have just figured out how it connects to MetaZoo lore. Welcome back to Cryptid Theory. Turmentic here, and today I'm excited about this one. This is one a lot of people have been asking about. What exactly is the SCP? Or what exactly are they? How does it tie into MetaZoo? Well, just for those who don't know what SCPs are, I'm going to go into some basic explanation of that, give you some examples, and then we're going to actually get into the theory part. So for people who don't know anything about that, the SCPs are part of the Foundation. Now, the Foundation is a secret organization that contains anomalous or supernatural objects, entities, and phenomena through the creation of special containment procedures. That's what the SCP stands for. Now, each SCP is different. SCPs are always referred to by SCP and then their number, and anything honestly can be an SCP. For example, any item or animal that does not follow the rules of nature or the universe could be classified as an SCP. A staircase that goes on forever, mechanical gods from the beginning of time, a toaster that after 2 months makes you start acting like a toaster, a cat, for example, where half of it is missing but yet it still walks around like normal. Those are very good examples of SCPs, and there are thousands of them looking into this. Now, the interesting thing is that SCP, like I said, stands for Special Containment Procedure, but the motto for the Foundation is Secure, Contain, Protect. Because their whole goal is to get these creatures, these entities, away from humanity at large. Because these entities, depending on their level, their threat level, I'll go over that in a second, could do nothing, could destroy all of human civilization. Like, there's a huge power difference between these. It's very similar to the cryptids. Now, like I said, they're broken into what's called object classes, okay? Now, there are subclasses and other things that goes further in detail, but these are the main three that are always used. First one is safe, means that containment is easy. The next is Euclid, which is containment is more complex. And Keter, there's a debate on how to actually pronounce that, but Keter would be containment is very difficult to maintain. Now, the SCP stories in real life, in reality, it's a group of writers who got together and started making it. Originally started out as a creepypasta, but it's grown from that to include all of these stories. Like I said, thousands of different entries. And it's interesting, there's a couple of different sites that actually host some of it, but each of the stories can be solo, or they can be parts of other stories as well. Stories can contradict other ones. It fits the nature of these creatures being otherworldly. It makes sense in a weird way that the stories can contradict each other just because of the type of anomalies that you're actually talking about when you're dealing with some of these SCPs. So now what I want to do is I actually want to give you some examples of how MetaZoo cryptids literally transfer over to these SCPs, where some of these SCP entries are the literal cryptids. The first one is SCP-1000. It's a Keter level object, and it is Bigfoot. It's described as a nocturnal omnivorous ape classified in the hominid branch. Adults range from 5 to 10 feet tall and weigh 200 to 600 pounds. They have gray, brown, black, red, and occasionally white fur. They have large eyes with good vision. The wiki even admits later down into it that this SCP-1000 is Bigfoot, and I'm not going to go into detail, it's ridiculous. Look this one up. It goes into detail about ancient interactions between Homo sapiens and SCP-1000, the entire species, and it's crazy. But that's one level, or one example, I should say, of an SCP transferring completely over to MetaZoo. The next one is SCP-2901, and this isn't a Euclid level object, so remember, it's the second level, not the third like the Bigfoot was, and it's Mothman, which is, it's interesting that the way they have them classified. It's described as an extra-dimensional properties that are currently no methods of physical containment of this SCP-2901, which is Mothman. SCP-2901 are a species of nocturnal carnivorous scavengers of limited intelligence, averaging 1.7 meters in height. They usually appear as having an ellipsoidal shape and possesses 2 large eyes layered with photophoric tissue. They can move through space-time freely, granting them certain abilities such as levitation, flight, and teleportation. Sounds like Mothman. Interestingly enough, the wiki says that they are able to emit an acoustic cancellation effect within a radius of approximately 25 miles. This could be, in honesty, this could be the veil, or if you remember from one of the original theory videos I did, I talked about how the veil was unnatural and how the veil could limit certain magical properties, if not just completely snuff them out, because that's why the veil was put in place. So certain objects, certain beings would appear differently because of being viewed through the veil. This right here, able to emit an acoustic cancellation effect, meaning that it can cancel out sound, is almost the opposite of what happens in the first comic with Mothman above that baseball field. So maybe the veil broke and the cancellation effect actually became the sound that Sam and Adam heard in that baseball field. I got really excited about that. Also, scrolling down later in that entry, the entry even says that the first time this SCP-2901 was ever seen was in West Virginia in 19 Redacted, followed by the collapse of Redacted. Meaning Mothman in Point Pleasant in the 60s and the collapse of the Silver Bridge. I thought that was awesome. Again, SCP-2901 is Mothman. The next two are actual ones that they have teased us with the announcements in the MetaZoo Discord. And the first one is SCP-426. It's a little funny. I kind of actually really like this one. Now, the interesting thing about SCP-426 is that it's an ordinary toaster able to toast bread when it's supplied with electricity. But anytime any human mentions SCP-426, they always have to refer to SCP-426 in the first person. You cannot refer to SCP-426 in the third person. It's very interesting. Despite all attempts, there's been no way to speak or write about SCP-426 in the third person. Now, the thing with this one is that it is listed as a Euclid, so that's the second power level. When in continuous presence for over 2 months, individuals begin to identify themselves as a toaster. Unless forcibly restrained, the person will ultimately harm themselves in an attempt to emulate SCP-426 standard and function, meaning that they will try to emulate SCP-426, which is the toaster, if they're in proximity of it for 2 months. Thought that was really, really interesting. The next one I want to talk about is another one that MetaZoo has also teased us with, and that is SCP-529. This one is labeled as safe, so it is on the first scale of that power, like we were talking about. And this one, in my opinion, is the Cactus Cat. And this is another really good example of how I was talking about the veil obscuring certain things to where we were in the non-magical side, so we could not see any of this stuff. So SCP-529 is a small house cat, which is a small gray tabby, and it's missing parts of the animal near the rear end. It looks honestly like a cat that was cut in half. Now, there's no health problems with this cat. This cat can walk around like normal. It's not dragging or anything. It's walking around. It's just literally, it looks like 2 legs on a cat and body just walking around like normal. Whenever you actually look at the side of where the cut is on the cat, where like missing its back half, there you don't see anything interior of the cat. It says it appears pure black to the eye and absorbs all non-visible wavelengths of light. The hindquarters are not invisible either. Examination will actually, there's nothing there. You can put your hand, but it walks around like normal. Again, in my opinion, that's Cactus Cat. The reason why we can't see the last half of it is because that is literally the magical half of that creature, if you will. And once you start putting them together, I only looked for a couple for examples for this video. So the reason why I went over all of the Foundation, some examples of how cryptids literally transfer over to SCPs, are because it's my opinion and my theory that the SCP is the protocol on dealing with cryptids and magic. With the veil in place, humanity did not actually have magical power. The Evergreens did. I theorized that there are the Sakuras over in Yokai Island and the beaches in Grimm's Kingdom, the equivalent of the Evergreens in those two kingdoms. They existed with their magic, very limited, but they still had some magic. And we would have needed a way of being able to deal with otherworldly, interdimensional beings, objects, things of that nature. That's why the SCP was formed. So we could actually deal with those magical creatures in a non-magical way. Like I said, certain creatures would be almost in limbo. They would be half here, half hidden. Good example would going back to the Cactus cat. And they would have to be able to find ways of being able to secure these things. That's why the Foundation was created, I feel. To be honest with you, in MetaZoo lore, I bet we'll find out that the Foundation was created by one of the Evergreens, one of those powerful casters that existed once the veil actually was put into place. Now, the big question I have at the moment right now is, does the SCP still exist with the shattering of the veil? It would make sense for the SCP to exist before the veil shattered, but with the ability of magic that people actually had once the veil shattered, did it turn into something else? Was it literally destroyed? But the thing is that all of the information recorded in these SCP reports would be super beneficial post-veil shattering. But at the same time, though, a lot of these creatures and a lot of these objects might act differently because they would be infused with that magic again. It wouldn't be through the shimmer of the veil. It wouldn't be diluted because of looking at it through the veil. These things could be ridiculously powerful. Any item, like I said, can actually be an SCP. Well, what makes that item in a regular world where the veil is put in place and it's obscured, but then it turns into the full-fledged artifact that it was before? Potentially those could be, might be a little far-fetched, but you could almost say that the rings that Hero actually have in the Hero Quest potentially could be SCPs that were returned to their original magical form once the veil shattered. So it's really interesting with these. I'm really interested to see where they go with the SCP stuff, because I can see how it would tie in, whether it exists now or it existed just before the veil shattered. So it is my opinion that the Foundation was probably created by an Evergreen caster in order to create these SCPs, these special containment procedures, for these anomalous supernatural objects, creatures, beings, entities, things like that. Because when the veil was put in place, magic was limited, so they had to find a way of being able to contain anything that kept some of that magic, or anything that was a little more powerful enough to not fully be diluted. Because remember, again, I actually think that the majority of animals that existed in our world before the veil shattered were cryptids, just veiled, if you will, to use that word, from magic, because we were cut off from magic when the veil was put in place. So it would make sense for us to have some way of combating strange things that don't really fit with a non-magical world. And so, of course, the Foundation, the SCPs, were then created. Now, it's interesting because, like I said, the SCPs can translate directly over to the cryptids. So I would almost go as far as to say that most of the cryptids that actually probably exist have an SCP file somewhere, have some number. I think that the Foundation is actually still probably in existence after the veil shattered. If anything, it might have actually gotten stronger, only because now they can actually study and look at these things in their full nature instead of it being veiled through that veil that existed that cut off humanity from magic. Saying that, though, these SCPs probably got a lot stronger once the veil shattered, because again, they were able to be infused with the magic that the veil was actually preventing getting to them. But my name is Turmentic. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the theory. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on this theory. I'd love to discuss it a little bit more. And until next time, I hope you have a good one.